So let's start with a demo and an overview of the finished project that we'll be working on this week. And it's the first part of an image sharing site with some social media features. I'm going to go to my development version, which is localhost devel share. And I have a page with just some generic text in it. And there's a nav bar at the top with sign up and sign in buttons. And I'm going to start by clicking on sign up. And if I hit the OK button here, I get an error in the context of this dialog. So I'm going to supply a username. Now I'm getting an error about the email, so let's go ahead and add an email address. Now I need a password. Test me. Confirmation must be supplied. Confirmation and password must match. Username already exists, so try a new username. So let's go mark 2. That already exists as well. Let's try mark 3. There. So now I've successfully created an account and the nav bar shows my name. If I click on logout, it takes me back to sign up, sign in. So I'll click sign in. Now I get a login dialog. Mark 3. Incorrect password, so error comes here. That should be the correct password, and now I'm logged back in. So the interesting thing about this is that the browser is actually communicating with the server at a number of points in this interaction. So I'm in the context of this page, and the first thing that the page does when I load it is the browser contacts the server and fetches the code for this nav bar. So the nav bar has HTML and CSS and JavaScript associated with it. And the browser fetches that content using JavaScript. And then when I click on one of these buttons, the browser fetches more content. So this dialog for the login and for the register, those dialogs aren't actually loaded right now, but they get loaded when I click the button. So let's take a look at how that works. I'm going to go ahead and monitor the network traffic, and I'm just going to hit reload. And if I scroll to the top, the first thing it does is it loads that index.php page. And when that's finished, then it starts getting the jQuery UI stuff. And then it loads this navbar.js file. And all navbar.js has is a call to a JavaScript function that we'll be writing that uses AJAX, asynchronous JavaScript and XML, to fetch this navbar content, and then to install it into the page, and then to execute a callback function navbar, which makes this thing go live. And then some more jQuery UI stuff gets loaded, and then some more jQuery UI stuff gets loaded, and some JavaScript utilities. And the navbar content is loaded with AJAX and then displayed. So the actual navbar content is just this big hairy mess. And what this is JavaScript object notation, JSON, JSON. And it's the representation of a JavaScript object that has a JS property, which is this long piece of text, which is some JavaScript code. And then it also has a CSS property that has the style information for the navbar. And finally, somewhere in here, it has an HTML property that has the HTML for the navbar. So all of that information is sent back as a JavaScript object from PHP, and then the JavaScript that loads this content uses it to display the navbar. Now you'll notice that there's no dialog here. If I look at the page source, right-click on View Source, there's no HTML for the login or register dialog. But watch what happens when I click on the sign up link. So there's another asynchronous fetch, AJAX fetch of register content.php. And once again, this is a JSON object with JavaScript and some CSS and some HTML that gets installed into the page and then executed so that this dialog pops up. Then, if I go ahead and click on a button, watch what happens. So I'm going to hit the OK button. That actually triggers another fetch, a call to doregister.php, and it passes in the current contents of the form, and there are none. Here's the form data, empty form, and then the response is another JavaScript object notation object with a message property, some HTML to display as an error message, and a status, error. And if I go ahead and fill out some form information, and then click OK again, that causes another AJAX request to be sent to the server with a different response. So now I have a different error message, error registering. Username already exists, please try a different username, and an error status. So if I go ahead and change this to mark 4, hit OK, once again that triggers another AJAX request. This time the status is OK, so JavaScript gets rid of the dialog. Another AJAX request to get the current user. The navbar now is querying the backend server to find out who's logged into this session. The currently logged in username is returned, and that's used to update the navbar. So all of this functionality is being handled in the context of a single page using AJAX and JavaScript object notation.